Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, the illustrious Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of North Carolina. Floyd and I almost missed our mark jumping on at 9:30 because we were discussing an article that I just received from a former colleague that talked about three people being arrested at graduation for carrying handguns or carrying guns, not just handguns, because somebody had a rifle in the parking lot of the Coliseum on graduation day at Alger B. Wilkins' graduation. And we were talking about how accessible these weapons are now. Mr. Floyd, very quickly, what are your what are your most immediate thoughts when it comes to these people who openly carry a weapon? And I'm not talking about people who go through the courses and responsibly carry their weapons or conceal their weapons. But what are your thoughts about the mass number of people that just openly flaunt carrying? And you likened it to those big cell phones that hang off the waist, right?
It's a death trap
Absolutely.
because when you walk out the car, I mean, when an officer asks you to get out the car and you turn around, and when you turn around and face the officer, the first thing he sees in his glance is what appears, and remember not to, I'm saying that, what appear to be a handgun. Because
Yes.
a handgun, most of them that they carry that I've seen are black, and a cell phone is black. And the officer has a split second to determine whether it's a cell phone or a weapon of when you got out the car. And most of the time, hypothetically, when you get out the car, you push yourself up on the door handle, which is at the height of your waist where your weapon is. So the officer may assume that you are going for going for the cell, the weapon, and so he does what it takes to protect himself.
Absolutely. And let me say this. I don't know about the cell phone comparison issue, but I will say this. I know that people who open carry their weapons are typically, if you're in a situation where somebody wishes to do harm and they've already made that their intention and they're going in with that, they're looking for people with open carry weapons so they can take you out first because you are the most immediate threat. So I just want to say I'm glad that all of these young people were able to graduate. Congratulations to all of class 2024. Everybody who walked across that stage, go be great, do what God created you to do. Try your best to figure out what that is according to the word of God, because if you do it according to the standard of the world, you're going to spend a lot of time spinning your wheels. Mr. Floyd, I would like to take a moment and congratulate my very own daughter who graduated class of 2024, Peyton. And she graduated with honors. She was the class president for her class, so she got to stand on stage and tell all of the students to turn their tassel. And because she graduated from a very small class, it was a very intimate ceremony. It was very beautiful, and I was just overcome. Both of my daughters graduated from small classes, so I got to just have such an intimate experience with them during the graduation. But Mr. Floyd, I officially no longer have any more students in high school or under that came from the fruit of my womb. And I just want to say thank you, Jesus, for helping me get these children through to this point. And I'm just continuing to pray for their success. And Mr. Floyd, I want to thank you. And I know this may sound odd, but let me take a moment to thank you because we get these kids to where they're going, not by ourselves. It takes a village and it takes a tribe. And in your own way, you have been an influence on my family and an influence on my tribe. So thank you for helping me to get that one across the stage too.
Well, let me say this to you, Chief. I'm simply going to say this to you as a friend. You have finished one job.
And I got
Now
another one.
you have another one. So
I
don't think
know.
that you so don't think your work is done.
Mr. Floyd, I learned from that first one, and you were there to celebrate with us her graduation from college. And often we think that a child graduating from college mean they on their own. Not Mr. Floyd, not at all.
Not at all. The problem just began.
Absolutely.
It's an endless cycle. That's
Parenting is a forever journey.
I don't care how old they get. It's an endless cycle. But
Absolutely. Because I
it's
listen to you
important.
and Tanya sometimes, and I say, now I know, look, Tanya been out of college, and you are still her dad. You are still her dad.
How well I notice. How
and
well
I'm
I
still
know.
and I'm still my parents' daughter. I'm still there, I'm their little girl. But Mr. Floyd, I want to tell all of the students in the class of 2024, congratulations. We are so proud of you and your accomplishment. There are many who did not walk across that stage for various reasons. We applaud you for being the ones that did. And to every parent, because this never misses my mind, to every parent who has to endure this season, and you have lost your child, and you know that this would have been the time that they would have been walking across that stage. We are with you. We grieve your loss with you because we do recognize that your loss is all of our loss. And so we just want you to know that we, during this period of celebration, we honor you as well because we recognize how very difficult this time is for you. So with love from the Up Zone, we just want to let you know that we are with you.
And teach and please for those students that have completed their 12 years. I just want to remind them that the world now is waiting on their gifts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need a
Whatever it
return on
may
this.
be.
We need a return on this investment that was made because many of you that graduated from public school, we all paid for y'all to go to school. There was a fee associated to that. We need a return on that investment. So go do great things. Mr. Floyd, any announcements, sir, besides this graduation stuff?
Well, we have several teachers. Don't forget, the 14th is Flag Day. The 19th is June the 16th.
No, no, it's not June the 16th. It's Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. I'm sorry, Juneteenth. And Fayetteville State Gala is going to be the 22nd of this month. Martin Luther King Banquet is the 29th. And back the Vets Unlimited is having their Western extravaganza
Okay.
at the Shriners Club. So we have a busy month for activities. And if we can, let's go out and support these various organizations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Floyd, there are so many things in the news right now that that have people scratching their heads. And honestly, me too.
It's a little confusing.
there's
It's a
there's
little.
there's so much. I'm gonna share an article. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I've seen this reported in the Fayetteville Observer. I don't take the Observer, but a lot of people who do, nobody has said to me that they've seen this. But Mr. Floyd, before I put this up on the screen, I want to ask you something. Do you remember when I came off council? You and I were doing this podcast with Troy Williams at the time, and I made some very serious allegations against my fellow council members. And I did not do that lightly. And I didn't do it in a way where I could backtrack and say, I didn't say that. I did it in writing. Okay. And I named an attorney and I named people who had relationships that I could verify with that attorney. There was one council member, there may have been two, that I didn't name as having a relationship with that attorney because I could not verify that. And I wanted to make sure that everything that was in my letter, I could verify myself. I suspected, but I couldn't verify. Well, Mr. Floyd, I can now verify.
Well,
I can now verify that that council member needs to be added to the list of individuals who serve on the Fayetteville City Council and have a relationship with this attorney. And that council member, for the purposes of our audience, is council member. Who is it, Mr. Floyd?
well, I don't want to call the gentleman name because
I'll do it. It's Councilmember DJ Haire. It is Councilmember DJ Haire. Now, let me say this. Recently, there was an article that was done by Evie Weisblatt, and it was run in the City View today, and it talked about an ethics complaint being lodged against a council member over home demolition. I was so confused when I read this article, not because of the content of the article, but because of the position of the council member. This council member is Councilmember DJ Haire. And I'll say this: there have been allegations in the community, and listen, not just in the community, but from members of the city staff, that Councilmember DJ Haire often used his position to avoid code enforcement on his properties. He has been touted a slumlord in the community. In addition to that, there have been allegations that he has used his position to protect the properties of his inner circle. So when I read this article, I was like, well, maybe those allegations are true because I've been hearing these allegations for years. Okay. Now, remember, I didn't say any of that in my letter because I could not verify it.
well,
However, Floyd, let's talk about this article because this is a very loaded article.
well,
What did you understand this to be saying?
I understand that the council person had very little knowledge about the incident.
How do you understand that?
Because that's what he said.
Okay, so let's go through this article because some people may not have seen it. It says that he was accused of violating the city's code of ethics by a constituent who claims the council member covertly attempted to stop a house demolition on behalf of an alleged family member who has sold the resident a condemned property. It goes on to say it lists out what the code of ethics indicates. And then it says that the complaint against Haire comes as the city has cracked down on code enforcement violations. Remember what I just said? Following directions from the city council to reduce compliance times and shorten the city's demolition list. The complaint was discussed by the Ethics Commission on May 20th in a closed session. The resident, Leonard Williams, who made the complaint about the home he owned in Haire's district. Here's the timeline. In September, the city council votes to demolish the house. In August, Williams and Boswell buy the house. This is a year later, August of 2023. Williams and Boswell buy the house from McNeil. They allege that Haire visited the house just before this to assure them that it would not be demolished. This is August of 2023. In September of 2023, Boswell obtains a building permit for $7,500 in building repairs. In October of 2023, Williams and Boswell received notice that the house will be demolished according to the 2022 order. In November of 2023, council votes to stay demolition. This is in November. Council votes to stay demolition and have Williams Boswell meet with staff after DJ Haire requests to stop demolition. So go back and say what you said to me again. You said he said what?
What teach now that you mentioned there is part of the city record. Is that not correct?
But what did he say?
Now, but what I'm saying, Tish, I don't think I'm saying how I am confused is that when you spoke up at the city council meeting to delay the action, the demolition
that you had put in or in that the council had put in motion a year prior.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little bit confused.
Well, let's keep walking through it because I think what you said is that council member Haire said he had no knowledge of this. So in November, council votes to stay demolition after DJ Haire, not any other member of the council, this particular member of the council requests to stop demolition. Williams receives a call later in November notifying him that the house will be demolished. In December, the house is demolished. In February of this year, Williams files a complaint. In May, the Ethics Commission meets to consider the complaint. Here's what Williams is saying. He says that he and his son bought this house in Bonnie Doon. That is a district that is in DJ Hare's district. From Alvin McNeil, another resident of the neighborhood. The sale took place almost a year after the home had been placed on the city's demolition list for code violations. Williams said he was aware that the house was on the demolition list, and he was told that he had initially been reluctant to go through with the purchase after making that discovery. That is until McNeil assured them that DJ Haire, who McNeil claims is his cousin, could stop the demolition or at least delay it until they had time to bring it up to code. Haire allegedly visited the house in August at McNeil's request and put together a list of necessary repairs for Williams and Boswell to prevent demolition repairs, which they said they completed before the house was demolished. And then they go on to talk about that's when they made the purchase, which was $27,000. Haire has denied Williams' allegations about his involvement in the demolition, but indicated the situation involved underhandedness on the part of the buyers and the sellers. He goes on to double down on his denial. And then we see in December, it was demolished. This is what I thought was interesting. If you come down just a little bit further, Williams texted Haire a picture of the October 20th demolition notice on October 25th, along with pictures of the home, but the councilman did not respond. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Floyd. Is your cell phone number public record?
No, I hope it's not, but I do get a lot of spam.
This is very specific. This is not spam.
And then I do get a lot of spam, so
This is very specific. This is very specific. Now check this out. Now wait a minute now. Listen. He said he had no knowledge of this, right? But Mr. Floyd, Williams texted Haire a picture of the demolition notice, and then it goes on to say screenshots of text between Haire and Williams during this time show Haire responded with "please text me" on multiple occasions, but did not respond to the contents of the messages. So you had some knowledge of this. You may not have known exactly. You can allege that you didn't understand what was going on, but you can most certainly not say you had no knowledge because you're responding to text.
Well, let me ask you a question, Chief, since you've been asking me all these questions.
Okay.
Does not the city has a code? I'm gonna use the term, a code enforcement and a building inspector department.
Okay, let's get to that. So
now, I'm asking that. I mean, do they not have that?
They do, and that all falls under Jerry Newton, who is Development Services.
Okay, that's one question. Now, help me to understand this right here. Is DJ Haire a part of that staff?
Absolutely not. DJ Haire shouldn't even be communicating with that staff because council policy, I'm going to hit you with some more policy. Unless it has changed, council policy indicates that the city council can only have conversations at the city manager level. We are not permitted to have conversations below the city manager level because of stuff like this.
Okay, now.
But listen, further complicated matters is the question of a November 17th email from Gerald Newton's department, which is City Development Services, to Williams and Boswell. Jerry Newton went on to say, now let me move this up. Jerry Newton went on to say, well, Lauren Beimer indicated, who was the communications person, that Jerry Newton was sending this email as a response to the November 14th inspection that the city council had directed staff during the November 13th city council meeting to complete. At that meeting, Haire had publicly asked the council to stop demolition. I'm asking tonight, these are his exact words. I'm asking tonight, with whatever conditions that come out of this discussion, that we remove 5200 Collins Street from the demo list with whichever deemed conditions that may arise tonight. Haire said at the council meeting that we allow the property owner to continue to improve this structure, to take this structure out of blight, and to take this structure into an improved state where it can be an asset of housing within the Bonnie Doon community. Doesn't that asset of housing keep coming up? The mayor used it. to develop this land out near Fields Road. We're hearing DJ say it now.
I mean, it's just duplicated language, so, it, from two friends, I mean, it's common.
Okay, let's go with that. We'll go with that. Now, the City View today goes on to indicate that Haire's response and contradictions. They lay it out. They lay it out for us. Haire describes himself as a whatever, whatever. Williams alleges that Haire repeatedly ignored calls, texts, and emails between August and November, and instead communicated with him via McNeil and McNeil's employee, Sean Lennon. And then it goes on to talk about this email that Williams obtained from City Records and shared with CityView, which demonstrates that Haire was at least in email correspondence with Lennon. Haire forwarded an email chain to Lennon on November 8th, writing for your information only. Haire, however, said he did not know who Sean Lennon was. So you didn't email somebody, but you don't know who they are?
Well, now sometimes if a person communicate with you, whoever they may be out there in the cloud, I get a lot of, but because I don't know who's on the other end of them, so I don't respond back.
Williams sent an email to Haire on November 9th expressing his frustration. Haire responded to Williams' email saying, "Thanks for your email. It's my hope to discuss this item Monday with counsel. I'll know more Monday evening and will share with you." In early November, Haire made several official attempts to stop the demolition. A November 8th email exchange between Haire and council members demonstrates his apparent interest in stopping the demolition. He tells council members he needs their help immediately to stop the demolition, encouraging them to feel free to visit the structure as the owner still works on it. Williams said Haire's public attempts to stop the demolition contradict his private behavior to him, and as he and Boswell sought to find out more information about the house. Mr. Floyd, I just want you to know, he goes on to say, "I'm not sure who McNeil is," Haire told City View. "I get the names confused for some reason. I'm not sure who McNeil is, but I understand what you're speaking of." He vacillates even in this article, sir. But
Well,
here's the most interesting part. Here's the most interesting part. What does it say right here? Because remember, I did not allege that DJ Haire had a relationship with Jonathan Charleston because I could not prove it. I can prove it now. You know why? Haire's attorney in the matter, Jonathan Charleston, has been involved in a number of controversial cases representing local government officials and private companies. He previously served as the city's bond counsel during discussions of whether to sell PwC to a private company. Some of Charleston's current local clients include Mayor Mitch Colvin and his business partner, Darren Collins. The Hoke County government and a public records law brought lawsuits. Faye Block, Mr. Floyd, this a mess.
well, Tish, you know, it's. I mean, my concern is, along with the other information in there that was lifted from the city minutes, is that you are somewhat out of character when you provide a list of correction of a structure.
Because that is not your responsibility. And any way you paint it, that can be viewed as an unethical involvement in this case.
It is, and if you and on the half of the person that purchased the family, but they won't get the money back. But the person that took the repair list, you got to still the city building code had to review it. And when they looked at the structure, they said I'm just summarizing it was above and beyond for what was the
Right. Whatever DJ's list was allegedly. Absolutely. And Mr. And Mr.
but
And
but
you're a builder, you know.
well, I can drive a few nails, and I'm just not going to take a man off the street suggestions,
Right.
that cause me to spend more money. See, I'm
But
gonna make
Floyd,
it
when
right.
somebody come up to you and they say, my homeboy, he on the city council, we can do this. He been doing this. He can. Don't worry, we've done this before. And somebody said to me, they asked me this question, and I laughed because I've often posed this question. They said, "Is Jonathan Charleston the only attorney in Fayetteville?"
Well, well, what you have to look at, Tish, who do when you look at attorneys, and you have to look at Jonathan. He provide a special skill, just like many lawyers provide special skills. There. Now, let's move to if we can the Fay Block Company, what they call
Let's
the
do that.
SRO.
Let's do that.
Okay. Now, Fay Block Company want to rezone some some lots that they see that that the city say is non-conforming.
Right.
So you don't get a lawyer that handles drunken driving cases. Okay, who do you go and get? You get
You get an attorney who is
has a
known for
relationship.
working with the government, for working. You get an attorney who has relationships with the city council.
I mean, you can't blame. Uh, uh,
No,
uh,
that's wisdom. That's the smartest thing in the world. What's
so,
the stupid part? The stupid part is not that Faye Block would hire Attorney Charleston. The stupid part is the Fayetteville City Council members would hire Attorney Jonathan Charleston because
but
you put yourself in a position where your
you got to
character is
blame
called into
yourself, T.
question.
I said it to you before when you voted for Karen McDonald suggestion and recommendation to the council that it is not a conflict.
He was never my attorney.
But
And I'll
you
say
open
that he's
Pandora's
never
box.
been my attorney. And I will say this, not only that, but and I say it over and over again, that is the only vote that I have ever taken as a council member that I regret. And I make no excuse for that. So
And the thing now,
I stand in complete, and it would have still been 9-1 and it would have passed. But I stand in complete confidence and tell you that was my bad because
well,
I never should have agreed to that.
when you look at it now, over at Faith uh, Lock Company, there is see what you look at on the council. We know that there is 3.5 votes that he may have on this issue.
And
I'm
this
just
is
gonna
and
say,
this is by proximity. So we'll talk, and it's just by relationship. So we'll say Larry Wright. I mean, not Larry Wright, because Larry Wright is the guy who's over there now trying to sell this to the community from District 7. And I like Larry. I've always liked Larry.
but
But
Larry
I
has the
disagree a lot with how
and
Larry lets
Larry
people
has
do
the
stuff.
expertise to help them, work through this situation with the council because he understands and have a relationship with past council members.
Well, not only that, but he has a relationship with the attorney who is representing Faye Block, because this is the same attorney who represented his wife in the driving incident where she was driving a vehicle that ran into a mail carrier. And those of you who know I'm not going to get all into that because that's a very difficult story to talk about. But he represented Jonathan Charleston represented his wife in that. So these pieces connect all too often and overlap.
Well,
But
they have a
again,
good person. Well, I still say they have a good person to
absolutely,
work with
absolutely.
them.
Because they now
To,
have a verified, Jonathan Charleston now has a verified relationship with DJ Haire. He has a verified relationship with Mitch Colvin. He has a verified relationship with Kathy Jensen because he's done work for Kathy Jensen before. I'm trying to think. Oh, we know that he has now I don't know if he's done any work, but we've been able to put the lines together to indicate a relationship with what's his name?
which one?
Um,
Council
the-
person?
yeah,
Well, we'll see after they come back.
they're back. That's who it is. Malik Davis. They're back because I saw him yesterday. So that's at least 4 council members. So all he needs is 2 more to be able to move this forward. And
Yeah.
and the article, because I don't subscribe to Fayetteville Observer, the article keeps kind of blanking out. But I'll say this: I thought that Myron Pitts did a very Myron Byron. Which one is it?
Burn.
Myron.
Burn.
Myron did a very good job humanizing this conversation. He did a very good job in his article humanizing this conversation. And implored the members of the Fayetteville City Council to go over and see these conditions, because he indicated if you just go over and see these conditions, I assure you it will change your mind.
Well, Teach, we've been working in that area ever since 2000 and seven. And what bothers me it more so is that the housing authority has maybe 30 or 40 units over there
Right.
next to the facility. But I I have yet to hear any comment from the housing authority as it relates to this dust bowl. And I know who the attorney
I'm
is
sure
that
their
also
attorney is advising them against making comments because their attorney is representing Fay Block Company. Why would they look? Why would they make a comment against the advice of their attorney? And their attorney would never advise them to make a comment in favor of their the people that live in their community, because their attorney is representing Fay Block Company.
well, we're gonna scramble those eggs eventually. When it comes down to the rezoning part, of that. But at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, he has he has the support of a council person, which I believe those residents can utilize to help defeat this effort.
The residents can utilize which part?
A council person, that a former council person that's
How they
trying.
gonna use him if he being used by the person that's pushing it?
Well, Teach, I'm just saying, Teach, that they could use his skill and expertise because he
Oh,
has a relationship and know how the council works.
okay. Well, moving right along, the titanium plant is still a conversation. There, the votes are moving forward to make it a possibility. Mr. Floyd, what are your thoughts about? There's a lot of
I think
people
it's
who
good.
want to see the economic investment. What do you want to see?
I think it's good, and you know, if you look at it from the Ramsey Street area, we're gonna be a unique community because everything that has an adverse effect on our environment look like it's being placed on Ramsey Street or east of the river. So so that's one thing, and I like the part when that the city and the county is working together to bring this industry to Fayetteville. But I don't what I don't understand is that the mayor indicated that they are going to annex this industry once it's come to fruit. But what bothers me is why would an industry be willing to pay over $2 million in property taxes? Because there's a such thing in North Carolina, two things: annexation and de-annexation. So why should I give you over $2 million a year when I'm looking at a profit? And so it just seems to me that if it takes place, that industry somewhere along the road may request a de-annexation of their property, with the city of Fayetteville. So I hope that as this negotiation move forward, that the city would somehow get an agreement with the industry that they will come into the city, one, and two, that they will not in the future look at de-annexation to avoid paying the $2+ million tax, which we need
Okay. And my opinion is I'm not well versed enough to know what the risks are. I know anytime you talk about a factory, there's always environmental risks. I am not a tree hugger. I think we need trees. I think that we need to be mindful of how we are treating the earth, but I don't worship the earth. I worship the Lord who created the earth. And so I don't know that this is either good or bad. I do see the economic value. Absolutely. And I'm looking at the reports of those who are really well versed in how this economic value could impact our community at large. And I will say that that is attractive. But Mr. Floyd, the more I look at this conversation, I feel like it's another example of anytime we are talking big industry, there's always something that jumps up that becomes a sticking point, and I just wonder how this is going to all play out. And again, I'm not knowledgeable enough to have an opinion one way or the other. There are things I like and things I don't. So,
Well, Teach, look at it. It's close to our water source,
mm-hmm.
and that is the Cape Fear River. It's within a mile uh, of the Cape Fear River. When we travel down Ramsey Street, what do we have? The Dust
Goodyear,
Bowl. And when we come down further, we have the
the tire
city,
plant.
the county trash dump.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
from one end to the other, you've
yeah,
got right,
environmental issues,
right,
and the county landfill want to expand their footprint, which is just across the railroad track from the Dust Bowl.
right,
And so that area, but the beauty of those two industries, Faith Block Company and the county, is that they have time to wait the residents out.
right,
You know, the property is much cheaper if there's no anything. If nothing on it, the property is much cheaper than
right.
having anything. So
And if
what
we
they're
rush this
doing,
process, if we go ahead and put these toxins in there and rush this process, you'll die at 50 instead of 80 so we can speed it on up.
yeah. So they're
Yeah,
coming in
which
and
is
buy
such an
property.
unfortunate, it's such an unfortunate position of big business. But the reality is big business across the board is not as concerned about the environment. They'll pay the fine, they'll do the things because they can afford to do that because big business makes so much money. But let me say this, Mr. Floyd, because I think we often miss this in the conversation. Titanium is a major component of batteries, right? There would be no need, and and many other things, but there would be no need for titanium or these other big business industries if we were not major consumers of their products. So ultimately, consumption drives demand. And so if we have a problem with something, we probably need to look at our lifestyles and the level that we consume these things at, because there would be no need for us to continue to expand operations for these industries if these industries were not highly consumed by we the people.
Technology, technology is what.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we all have one of these, and these are they need components to make them. So unless we're willing to give up our creature comforts, unless we're willing to reduce our lifestyles, I think we have to understand that these things are a necessary part of sustaining our consumerism. And
But
that's just the bottom line. So either you change your lifestyle or you end up with the factory. And it has to be a mass shift. It cannot be Tisha just gets rid of all of her devices. It has to be a mass shift. And Mr. Floyd, I think that we often neglect to have that part of the conversation.
well, what teach another part that we look at. Someone say, our average salary is anywhere between 48 to fifty
The
thousand dollars.
55,000.
So we're talking about an industry coming in and paying
Over 100,000.
120,000.
Yeah.
So we're talking about those organizations, like one of the highest paid one is Kelly Springfield. That some of these industries, and then down to Amazon, which is paying seventeen
Which
thousand.
is finally hiring, Mr. Floyd.
Yes.
So Robert, thanks because you didn't let on, but you kept trudging away. So thank you, Robert Van Giens. Amazon is finally hiring. I'm not really excited about Amazon. I think Amazon in totality is one of, but it again, supply.
Supply and demand.
Absolutely.
You order for. I mean, we live in a society today. We want we want it now, and Amazon has indicated.
And we don't want to go out to get it.
So Amazon said, "I have it to you tomorrow."
Right.
So that's our society. But
Right.
when you look at the workforce, you know that there are going to be some industries here in Fayetteville that are going to have some concern about losing, their workforce because of the salary. Which
Right.
how much?
But it's not gonna, let me tell you something. It's not gonna be, not too many people want to work that hard.
Well,
Because plant work is hard work unless you are the person that's in the office overseeing computer information or you're in HR. Plant work is hard work. It's it's
well,
it's,
plant work
it's
is hard
grueling.
work, Keith. But when you're looking at a community like ours, but they're at now we're not waiting during Charlotte and Greensboro. Of $120,000 I mean, you're talking about what, $10,000 a month and working 40 hours a week. You
But
know,
let's say more like 50, 55.
yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, although the government is going to have their hand out
Oh,
also,
digging in your pocket.
you know, but it's good. It's,
Right.
you know, it is good, but the other industries are those silent industry now may start complaining about losing their, some members of their workforce. But it's all
Absolutely.
good. It's all good.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Floyd, we also saw while we're talking about the local level conversations, we also saw recently some articles about Fayetteville State and this audit. And I think it was, what was it, like over $700,000 that was.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Mr. Floyd, what you make of this article?
I, when I read the article, I just read the article as as a common sense article, where common sense sets in. You cannot run an organization and write down all of the procedures of that organization. You can't do it. So common sense sets in. I mean, common sense tell you that
Common sense tells
contract.
you you can't take your child with you and have your job pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, you can take your child, but the company doesn't mind if you pay for it. In a separate voucher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now every plane teaching I have gone on, I have traveled all over the world. I have traveled all over. Now, one thing that a plane does, see, we all land at the
At
same
the
time.
same time. But
So
y'all don't get free drinks back there in coach though.
yeah, but I'm landing with you, though, Keith. I'm, la- I'm landing with you.
And your seat is not cushy and comfortable.
Well, that's one thing. And then if you're traveling special early, that means that you have some luggage. And we all gonna meet where we pick up the luggage.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So,
But I'm gonna
so
get mine first because my tag says priority.
that's
but
that's
but my job is not paying for that.
yeah.
My job
I
is not
mean,
paying for that.
so we're talking about just common sense.
Do you think that this speaks to, like, do you think, because this is now, I think, the third instance that we see. One of them was in Spring Lake for the embezzlement. This is happening here. And I can't remember where the third was. But do you think that this speaks to a culture that's prevalent in our community of like I don't want to use the word greed because that's not the word that comes to mind. The word that comes to mind is pridefulness. It's
Well,
pridefulness and also haughtiness.
I think teach that it comes about with what we perceive is experience in individuals when it's not. We need to make sure that we bring experienced people in, and that
Mr. Floyd, I challenge that.
what no, Keith, if you bring
Because
in
an inexperienced person can be ethical, and an experienced person can be very unethical. DJ Haire is the most experienced council member,
like I said,
and
Keith,
he's embroiled in an ethics battle.
there is experience and then there is a check and balance. Okay, you got to, you got to have that check and and balance because you know there's going to be audit. I mean that's just a given when you using public dollars. At some point in time, there will be an
They're
audit.
supposed to be. Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
by state statute, they are supposed to do institution. I think every 3 to 5
3
years.
year. Uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
to do an audit, but it doesn't look it doesn't look good because Fayetteville State in the past has had auditing problems, but they was
What does the
able.
board of trustees and the chancellor have to do with this conversation? Do they have any involvement in this conversation or any
Well,
liability or responsibility?
well, uh, the FBI does.
Listen, I need the
So,
SBI to come down here and investigate all of our major agencies because there's there's something in the water. Mr. Floyd, speaking of which, speaking of investigations and the powers that be in law enforcement, we had a bombshell dropped on Cumberland County here recently. And that was that the sheriff's office said, hey, guess what? We are no longer going to be staffing SROs in the incorporated areas schools. We will continue in the unincorporated areas. We will be removing our SROs from the incorporated areas. Mr. Floyd, there's been so much conjecture around this dialogue, and I just want to know what your thoughts are first about that, and then we'll talk about, when I put up that other screen, we'll talk about the commissioner's response.
Well, first of all, geez, we need them.
We need
Given
some sort
today's
of,
society, yes,
absolutely.
given today's society at our schools, we need them. That's one thing that we need.
I think we all agree.
You know,
Absolutely.
so the $3.2 million that was taken, from the sure budget. My question to you was, where is that money? Is it transferred to the school budget, showing that the school budget can hire these resource officers that
Right.
are needed now? Fayetteville has, I think it's maybe over 50 of the county 80 plus schools.
So before we get into where the money is, I want to talk a little bit about what the reason might be. And we alluded earlier, we were talking about the first, let me go back to my notes because I want to make sure I get this right. The first thing that we really discussed as we came into the program was what happened over there at the graduation, right?
Mhm.
And we were talking about the law enforcement and their response in that. And it crossed my mind that law enforcement, the career of law enforcement is a career where they are experiencing some shortages, especially here in Cumberland County, because and I attribute two things to this. I attribute the first thing being lack of regard and respect for law enforcement. We were also talking about guns and about how the people with the cell phones can be mistaken as, so we were talking about that. And this is what came to mind: lack of regard and respect for law enforcement, and how now people automatically perceive law enforcement as an enemy versus what they were originally was to protect and serve. Secondly, shortage in pay, right? Like a shortage in pay. So with those two things combined, we are experiencing in Fayetteville and Cumberland County a shortage in our law enforcement. I think you said about 74 shortages in the sheriff's office, and about how many in the Fayetteville
They
Police
usually
Department?
run between 45 and 50.
Okay. So Floyd, here's what I'm thinking, because I don't think that Sheriff Ennis Wright has a bone to pick with our students. You understand what I'm saying? Or with our schools. I think the issue is a staffing issue. I had occasion to speak with a county commissioner recently who reinforced what I was thinking when they were explaining to me. And I think we don't think about this when we see these articles. Fayetteville Police Department, Hope Mills Police Department, Spring Lake Police Department is only responsible for patrolling their municipality. Their other responsibilities and responding to calls for service, right? Their other responsibilities pale in comparison to the sheriff's office. Mr. Floyd, what are the things that the sheriff's office are responsible for?
Well, you have uh, a detention center.
That hotel down there for the right.
You have that detention center, and if you ever go to court, you know they do that.
Right.
And if you ever receive a warrant,
They're
you get that
issuing the
from
right.
the sheriff. Okay,
And they
and
also have to patrol the county and the unincorporated areas. So they have a litany of responsibilities and they have a shortage of personnel. I don't think that this was, and initially I was like, maybe this is political. I think the responses are political to this announcement, but I do not think that this decision was political. I think it was based upon, and I sent Sheriff Wright a text message to this effect. I believe that he did not respond, so nobody needs to go do a public records request. And I did not expect a response, but I believe that this is an effort to make sure that he is not overextending his staff.
well, that's what you got. That's what you got to look at. We talked about this once before when up by the city of Rocky Mount, they was paying $64,000 a year. In Spring Lake, Sanford is hovering somewhere up in the $60,000 a year. So people are paying higher wages for law enforcement officers,
Mm-hmm.
and people are not going into the law enforcement field like they once, in the past because of our environment and the changing of culture and the way people see police officers. But the sheriff still has, a responsibility. And so those schools, if the county took the money away from the sheriff department and perhaps transfer the money over to the school system, then the school system can then therefore provide that money to the to those
To
individuals.
another agency.
Yeah. But those local municipalities would have to do the service now. And my understanding across the state is that many municipalities, cities, are providing that service now
Right.
to the bird school system within their jurisdiction.
Right. Okay,
So
so
if nothing
here's
else,
my question. Here's my question. So, and I'm gonna put this up because you alluded to this, and I want us to make sure we talk about this. So when we talk about the politicization of this conversation, we saw that the mayor of Hope Mills, I'm gonna call it scathing
but
because
what teach now at the same time now, I understand and I read that also.
what did
But
you
at
see
the
him
same
say? But
time,
so that our audience can know what the
but
conversation
if
was.
that's why you have a vice chair, a vice or someone else that you
But
can
catch
check.
our audience up, Mr. Floyd, because they may not know what the mayor of
Okay,
Hope
this
Mills
is
said.
where Commissioner Adams indicated that he could not attend the
But the
meeting.
mayor of Hope Mills sent out he issued a statement at his meeting saying that he was surprised that the commissioner was not at the meeting because he had invited him.
Well,
That's
well,
what he
but
said.
but then again, the text message was sent at 4:40 in the afternoon, and I think they was meeting at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
And here's the issue that I take with what the mayor of Hope Mills did, because this is where I say it was politicized. Because for the mayor of Hope Mills to say, I'm surprised that Commissioner Glenn Adams is not here because I invited him, that leads the people who hear that to think that Commissioner Adams is just remiss in his responsibility in performing the obligations of his
Well,
job.
see, if you go
Or,
both ways, if he responded like that, he still has a vice chair and other seven
but
members
that's not
of
what,
the.
but that's not,
I
again,
can
I'm still,
understand that.
because it's still politicized, because he did not say, I'm surprised that no member of the Cumberland County Commissioners is present. He specifically called out Commissioner Adams. And the issue with that is that Commissioner Adams had already, and I love this. I love it when somebody is not afraid to put up receipts. Commissioner Adams in his meeting put up the receipts, and he let it be known that he sent a response to all of these parties that said, unfortunately, I cannot attend as we have a budget work session and I have a banquet right after. Let me tell you something, Mr. Floyd. You and I both know that it is not Commissioner Adams' responsibility to coordinate any other member of his board's calendar. So
But what
if,
I'm saying, he can ask. He can ask.
and
Just
so could
like
the mayor of Hope Mills.
yes, he could ask.
And
That's all.
so could the mayor of Hope Mills. The mayor of Hope Mills could have extended an invitation to the entire board and held them all equally responsible for their response. But instead,
And if
he
they did,
chose.
none of them would have showed up anyway.
And
But
if
I'm
that's
just
the
saying.
case, then you say no, again, then you say no member of the Cumberland County Commissioners is present at this meeting, and I invited all of them.
Well, again, Tish, even if he had invited someone else, knowing our county board of commissioners members, I don't think
I,
he's.
I think that,
I don't
and I'm
think
gonna
he's
tell you,
known.
there are a couple of them. There are a
Council
couple
would
of
have known.
them, and you know this, like I know this, Floyd, and we cannot take this away, whether we like their work or not. We cannot take away from the fact that there are a couple of county commissioners who, every time you look up, you see them somewhere, and maybe it's just one, maybe it's not even a couple, and the one he called out is the one that shows up in places you don't even expect to see him.
That's true. That's true. And the other members of the county board of
You don't
commissioners,
see him that much.
not the teeth, and you take out much. Okay, you take out much now. You
I
don't
see them
see them
sometimes. I see them
until November.
sometimes.
Until November. That's
Oh,
when
let
you
me let me put a pin in this real quick because I forgot to make mention of something. I did want to issue condolences to County Commissioner Tony Stewart. She recently suffered a great loss in her family, and I would like for us to I want her to make sure that we here at the Up Zone recognize the magnitude of that loss and that we are definitely here standing in support of you in this season. And we hope that you will really allow the Holy Spirit to just minister to you and be that comforter. And I will say this, Mr. Floyd, you are correct that there is not often a large presence. Now, when that Charles Evans was on the board, he was another one who would pop up in places that you didn't expect to see him. But you cannot paint the narrative. It's a lot of stuff you might be able to say about Commissioner Glenn Adams, but that he doesn't show up is not one of the things. And the reason I take issue with this is because you are taking a situation with our SROs being pulled out of these schools and you are politicizing it by trying to point a finger at Commissioner Glenn Adams. And I think that his response was appropriate. I think that Mayor Bellflower's was out of pocket for that. I think he needs to go back and really revisit how he chooses to do business with the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, or not even that, because I don't care how he does business with them. He needs to revisit how he communicates to the constituency so that he can not misrepresent the position.
well, Tish, I'm just simply saying that you are right in what you're saying, but when you know you're dealing with people and they make a request of your of a member or your organization, then you should have another person who can attend. I mean, because
But that is not your job to coordinate your counterpart. They're peers. They're not. These people don't work for Glenn Adams. They
I,
are peers.
but what I'm saying, that's why you have a vice chair to serve
And
in
that's why Mayor Bellflower should have invited the whole board. He is
but,
not getting off the hook with
and
me for this one.
Adams has a vice chair.
He
That,
does no,
that
no.
no,
The
no, not
Cumberland
what I
County
mean by
Board of
that. Cumberland
Commissioners has
County
a vice chair.
Commissioner has a vice chair,
Right.
and the vice chair served in the absence of the chair.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that
But they
responsibility.
have to be made aware of the event.
I mean, how can they be aware of the event unless it's passed down to them and see if they can attend?
But guess who should have done that? That is not Glenn Adams' responsibility.
It's not the chair responsibility if he or she
Let me
receives
say why I'm saying
an
that. Let me
invite.
tell you why I'm saying that. Let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because if we make it the chairs just like, and I'm gonna use the mayor and the mayor pro tem, it all depends on the relationship between those two people. Because if the mayor and the mayor pro tem have a contentious relationship, nobody should expect, because these positions are they're independent. They're not co-connected. Even though in our mind, and it makes sense what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing. What you're saying makes perfect sense. But the reality of the political nature of this job is you got your title, I got my title. If they want me there, if I can be there, I'm gonna be there. If not, they better invite who else they want because it's not my job. This is the political part of it.
Teaches my role as the chair.
So, Floyd, you
If
think
I
that the governor is going to send the lieutenant governor somewhere in his absence?
now, what I'm saying, Teach,
No,
if
the answer
I,
to the question is no.
my is Teach is just like I extend to you to let's jump in the river. Only thing I did was extend the invitation to you. You can say no. My job is done.
But then it becomes the appearance of me being responsible for ensuring that somebody is there is what then is transferred in that. And I
Then
think that we
then I will forward along the lines of communication. That's the role of a leader. That's all I'm
but
saying.
who says that the chairman is the leader of the board? Because their responsibility is not to
He
be the
is
leader of
in
the
fact the
calendar.
chair. If
The
he's the chair,
chairman's only responsibility is to manage the flow of the meeting.
if it's the chair responsibility, that's the chair responsibility.
But
You
where is
can't
that
play
in
on
their
words.
policy that says that
You
that's
can't
the
play
chair's
on words these
responsibility?
days. It's the chair responsibility is to forward down if he or she is unable to attend.
Okay, I'm gonna say this,
I'm
and
not saying
then
the person got to take it up now.
I'm gonna say this. I disagree because I'm thinking about this from the mayor pro tem perspective. There's nowhere in the policy that says that the mayor's responsibility is to convey information to those who are in the chain with him.
It
Now,
sure
is
helps the community understand that we have a well-functioning organization, may it be the county, the city.
that it would. That it would.
That's all I'm saying.
That it would. And the fact that that is not what's happening should indicate the opposite. Now, high five on that because you are absolutely correct.
So that's just
Absolutely.
another thing.
So very quickly, Floyd, because we only got a few more minutes. Very quickly, let's jump into this story. There's a 5-point lead that the GOP candidates for president and governor have in the state of North Carolina as of the date of this article. Now, with that being said, that means that Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson leads over Josh Stein, and that President Trump, at the time of this article, leads over, or former President Trump leads over President Biden. How do you think that this whole narrative speaks for the state? We've talked about this a million times, but how do you think that this narrative speaks for the state of North Carolina?
We got at my party, we have some work to be done.
Okay, and we can let that be that, right?
Yeah, we have some work to be done.
Okay. Now, the last thing that we want to talk about is the that might have been it. Was that the last thing? Hold on.
Huh?
Oh, that's
That,
it. That's it, Floyd.
that's that's it. Let me see. Yeah, but we never went back to talking about the travel, but we can do that other than
Oh, wait. They're back. They're back. Let me tell you how I know they're back. So yesterday, I was at a meeting, and I came out of the meeting, and I went into the lobby. And when I went into the lobby, I had occasion to run into one of the people, and I had occasion to run into one of the people who has been the subject of great conversation about this trip to France. And I didn't want to make it uncomfortable for them because I'm not mad at them. I just have a position as it relates to relaying this information. And I was very interested to see how the exchange was going to go, but he was very gracious. He spoke and extended a hug in my direction. And so, I felt like I hope that he was not uncomfortable in that, because most certainly I was not. But Mr. Floyd, I thought it was interesting because I think about me and how I react to things. I probably would have very gently said, "Can I speak to you for just a moment?" And would have, like, if I were in his shoes, especially given what Charles Evans had expressed about his consternation with our remarks, I would have been like, "Look, run to me, tell me why you feel like this." And I would have taken that opportunity to say, "Here's where I stand on Fay Block. Here's where I stand on, east of the river." Even if it would have been like, maybe we can't talk about this right now, but hey, do you mind if I call you so that, as an elected official, I can articulate to you how I feel about these things and how I'm looking at them for the benefit of my community. And that still hasn't happened, Floyd.
well, well, Tish, I know my governor went to Europe, went to France, Germany, and I think Sweden to attract new industry. I just hate that the two missed each other. The governor went first, and our group went second. I just wish that this would have boiled into a recruitment effort. But the other thing that uh, was out in rumorville was that the city had to do some reappropriation because the previous council took uh, Malik Davis money, and I don't understand that because he doesn't have access to the city money until after he had been sworn in. And so I was at a loss with that when I heard that conversation.
Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our audience with today?
Is to please read and get familiar with how our government operates. This is the budget season, and I like the way the county have moved forward. They took the Avalon taxes, which is about 9 million from the city, 3.5 million from the sheriff department. They're going to get 1.4 million from the Avalon. I mean, from the hotel occupancy taxes. So the county is moving forward. Let's continue to follow the dollars and the investment that both governments is going to make, like you guys want.
Follow the money. My final steps will be, and I always like to leave our audience with something to think about. You know, when we have these conversations, they feel lighthearted because that's our objective. There's no intention for us to feel like I'm a Fox News or a CNN because I'm not mad about any of this stuff. Mr. Floyd, you mad?
Not at all.
Okay, so there's no reason for us to be real heavy because we're not angry. I do get a little frustrated when people mistreat um what the Bible calls the least of these. And the reason I get frustrated with that is because the way that we treat the least of these is really the way that we honor or dishonor our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Whether you believe in him or not, you do need to know that however you treat the least of these, and his word said it, whatsoever you do unto the least, you have done unto me. And so, as you go about the course of your day, consider how you treat those that you feel are less than you, beneath you, not on the same level as you, don't have or don't do or can't be who or what you are. And how you're treating them is a true reflection. And this is particularly for believers, but it's a true reflection of how you are treating your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So, if you nasty to people, that you believe can't do or be nothing for you or to you, you're nasty to Jesus. And I think you really need to just take that into consideration and let that resonate and let it change how you deal. Mr. Floyd, I hope that people will tell a friend to tell a friend, like, share, subscribe, and follow. You told me recently somebody walked up to you and said, "What about our podcast?"
Well, I mean, I was surprised to know that they were listening.
And y'all tell me that all the time. And I'm always so interested in hearing that because that means that they believe that we're either onto something or we're off our marbles. But either way,
I
they
mean,
are tuned in. So like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend. And listen, just know we're with y'all. We are a part of this community and we are with you. So until that, we will catch you on the next episode.